Imagine whispering instructions and having a complex machine instantly build exactly what you described.
Yeah, like magic.
Forget intricate blueprints or years of training, just your words bringing something totally new to life. That's really the essence of something buzzing in the tech world right now.
You're definitely describing the arrival of vibe coding. Yeah. It's a concept that really seemed to explode in early 2025. Andrej Karpathy, the AI expert, was one of the first people talking about it quite a bit.
Precisely. Karpathy painted this picture, where developers could just tap into their intuition, describe what they needed in plain English.
And the AI tools would just conjure up the code.
Exactly. Think about it. You have an idea, you say it naturally, and the AI handles all the technical stuff underneath. Even IBM's research arm picked up on this, calling it a pretty significant shift.
And the buzz got so big, right? Merriam-Webster actually added vibe coding to their dictionary in March 2025.
Wow, that fast.
Yeah. Labeled it slang and trending.
Yeah.
That kind of rapid recognition really shows you how quickly the idea caught on.
It really did. But, okay, beyond that initial hype, there's a big question. What is vibe coding, really? Is it actually as effortless, almost magical as it first sounds? That's what we need to dig into today.
Well, at its core, I think vibe coding is about trusting AI with the more routine parts of making software, the repetitive stuff.
Right, freeing up humans.
Exactly. So developers can focus their brain power on the bigger picture, the design, the actual logic, the user experience.
Okay, so IBM's take emphasizes that delegation aspect AI as a translator from your natural language into code. And Karpathy himself had that phrase, didn't he? Something like see stuff, say stuff, run stuff, copy paste stuff.
Yeah, almost making the code itself seem secondary.
Which is interesting.
And what's really interesting is that vibe coding doesn't have one single strict definition. People interpret it differently.
How so?
Well, some see it as using AI to just generate code faster, maybe without looking super closely at every single line.
You get less scrutiny.
Maybe. Or even this idea of putting complete faith in the AI's ability to get it right.
Okay, that level of trust. That definitely needs a closer look. And isn't that where Simon Willison, the AI researcher, comes in? He had a pretty sharp distinction.
Yeah, he did. Willison basically said, look, if you take AI code and you don't fully understand it, if you don't review it properly, that is vibe coding. But if you do carefully review it, understand every bit, then the AI is really just acting like a very, very advanced typing assistant.
That tension seems key, trusting the AI versus needing that human understanding. It really ties back to Karpathy's other idea that English might become the hottest new programming language.
Exactly. The ability to just clearly say what you want the computer to do becomes paramount.
Okay, so let's get practical. What does a typical vibe coding session actually, look like? How does it work?
Generally, it's pretty interactive. Quite conversational, actually. You start by just describing what you need in plain language to one of these AI tools.
So, I might tell the AI, okay, create a user sign-up form, needs email and password fields, and make sure it validates the email format and checks for a strong password, something like that.
Precisely that. The AI takes that request and starts generating the code, maybe the HTML and CSS for the look, the JavaScript for the interaction, possibly even the database structure behind it.
And it's not just a one-shot deal, right? You look at what it spits out.
Exactly. You review it, and then you continue the conversation. You might say, okay, add a confirm password field or change the button color using more prompts to refine it.
So it's this constant back and forth.
Right, this iterative cycle. It often feels like a code first, refine later kind of mindset. Get something working quickly with the AI, then polish it up through more prompts.
And you mentioned you can even use voice commands with some tools, translating speech to prompts. That sounds like it could keep the creative flow going.
It absolutely can. It shifts the focus, away from typing every semicolon and bracket and more towards guiding the AI, reviewing its output, shaping the software.
Guiding and refining, not just typing.
And importantly, the AI learns from your corrections. That human-in-the-loop feedback is constantly improving the process.
Okay, so who are the players here? What are the actual tools making this happen?
Well, the ecosystem is growing really fast, but we can sort of break them down into two main camps: AI code editors and extensions, and then the AI app builders or platforms.
Got it. Let's start with the editors and extensions. What's the deal there?
These are tools designed to plug right into the coding environments developers already use every day, like your IDE. Think of them as super-powered assistants right inside your existing workflow.
Okay, can you give us some names? What are the big ones?
Sure. Cursor's a really prominent one. It's built on top of VS Code, which many developers use, and it weaves AI in very deeply. It has this feature called Composer that's quite powerful for generating code across multiple files just from your instructions. You can also chat with different LLMs right there. And crucially, it has a really smart way of showing you the differences, the changes the AI suggests, which makes reviewing much easier.
That review part sounds key. What else is in this category?
GitHub Copilot is, of course, huge. It acts like an AI pair programmer, giving you real-time code suggestions as you type in tons of languages right inside your editor.
Copilot's been around a little while, relatively speaking.
It has, but it keeps evolving. Now it has an agent mode for more complex tasks and supports various LLMs, Anthropic's, Google's Gemini, OpenAI's models. Its strength is really understanding the context of your current code and offering relevant suggestions, and now these more agent-like workflows too.
So these tools, Cursor, Copilot, they're great for devs already working on code bases.
Exactly. They enhance the existing process rather than completely replacing the environment.
Okay, what about the second category? The AI app builders or platforms. How are they different?
These tend to take a broader view. Often they're focused on super fast prototyping and, importantly, helping people who aren't traditional engineers build things.
Interesting. Examples.
Replit agent is one making waves. Their pitch is basically, tell us your app idea, we'll build it. Really leaning into that no-code, AI-driven creation. Apparently, it can even try to recreate an app's design just from looking at a screenshot.
Whoa, from a screenshot. That's ambitious. Others.
Then there's lovable.dev. That one's more visual. You use prompts to generate UI elements and back-end stuff, but you can also edit things with point and click. It integrates with services like Supabase for databases and authentication and syncs with GitHub.
So visual building plus prompts?
Kind of a hybrid.
Yeah.
And another one is Tempo Labs. They aim for full stack generation. It guides you through setting up auth, databases, and actually generates a whole project structure, including things like a product requirements document and flow diagrams.
It sounds like these different types of tools really have their own strengths.
Absolutely. The editors give you that deep context within existing code. The platforms offer that rapid full stack generation, often for new projects or non-coders.
And teams might use both.
Yeah, it seems common. Maybe spin up a quick prototype on a platform, then bring it into an editor like Cursor for more detailed work and ongoing development.
Yeah.
They're not necessarily mutually exclusive.
Okay, makes sense. So we understand the what and the how. Let's talk about the why. What's the big promise here? Why all the excitement?
Well, the number one argument you hear is just a massive leap in productivity.
Sit screw coding.
Much faster. Imagine AI assistants just handling all that boilerplate code, writing basic unit tests. The tedious stuff that eats up time.
Is there actual data on this? Or is it still anecdotal?
No, there's data emerging. Some studies, like those looking at Copilot, suggest developers complete tasks significantly faster, maybe around 55% faster.
Wow.
And you hear developers talking about saving hours, literally hours, on routine tasks they used to dread.
But it's not just about making existing developers faster, is it? There's this idea of opening things up.
Absolutely. That's maybe the other huge part of the promise lowering the barrier to entry. Making software creation accessible to people who aren't traditional programmers.
Like who?
Think product managers, marketing folks.
Huh?
Maybe they need a custom internal tool. Now, perhaps they can describe it and get it built. Or startup founders, especially non-technical ones, building their first web app by just articulating their vision. It could seriously expand the whole software creator economy.
That's a powerful thought. And what about the impact on startups specifically? You mentioned Y Combinator.
Yeah, that report from March 2025 was striking. They said about a quarter of the startups in their batch had code bases that were something like 95% AI generated.
95%.
It means these early stage companies can go from just an idea to a functional demo incredibly fast hours, maybe days instead of weeks or months.
Which means faster iteration, lower costs.
Exactly. It lets tiny teams tackle really ambitious, maybe niche ideas that just wouldn't have been financially viable before.
So it really comes back to that idea of English as the new programming language. The developer's role shifting more towards guiding, iterating.
Precisely. Less focus on the nitty-gritty syntax, more on the high-level vision and directing the AI to realize it.
This all sounds incredibly positive, almost too good to be true. Surely there are downsides. When the vibe is off, what are the risks? What's the shadow side here?
That's absolutely critical to discuss. Yes, the potential is huge, but there are significant trade-offs and real concerns. Critics are warning about blindly trusting AI code. They talk about brittle code.
Brittle code. What does that mean exactly?
Think of software that looks fine on the surface, but is fragile underneath. It works for the main cases, but it breaks easily with unexpected inputs or changes. Like a building with hidden structural flaws looks okay, but isn't sound.
Are these just theoretical fears, or are we seeing actual problems?
Unfortunately, we are seeing problems. Studies are coming out showing that, well, a worrying percentage of code snippets from top LLMs have real bugs. Some say nearly half. And another analysis, specifically of Copilot suggestions, found that around 40% had security vulnerabilities.
Yikes. That's quite concerning. It really drives home the need for human oversight, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Human review is non-negotiable. There have already been cases reported where apps built this way accidentally exposed sensitive data, like API keys, because the AI didn't handle security properly and nobody caught it.
And debugging this stuff must be hard if you didn't write it and maybe don't fully grasp the AI's logic.
Exactly. It can be incredibly difficult to troubleshoot code you don't deeply understand. This can lead to accumulating technical debt problems piling up under the surface over time.
There also seems to be this tension around skills, right? Does it empower people, or does it de-skill developers?
That's a real paradox. Think about calculators. They're useful, but if you rely on them for everything, your basic math skills might atrophy. There's a similar worry here.
That developers become over-reliant.
Yes, potentially losing that deep, fundamental understanding of how things work. Some argue vibe coding might actually be most effective for experienced developers who already have that solid foundation to guide and correct the AI properly.
And the speed itself could be a trap.
It could be. That's the speed versus oversight paradox. It's so fast, the temptation is just to accept the output without the critical review you'd normally apply. Plus, the AI's reasoning can be a bit of a black box, meaning it might introduce subtle biases or flaws, and you wouldn't even know why it made certain choices.
And then there are the bigger economic questions. What happens to traditional developer jobs if AI does more of the work?
That's the elephant in the room, isn't it? If fewer engineers can achieve more output, it naturally raises questions about demand for traditional roles. We're already seeing new jobs pop up, like prompt engineer. And there's likely a premium on senior developers, the ones who can effectively audit and manage the AI's work. The bottleneck kind of shifts, doesn't it? Away from just writing code towards figuring out what code should be written, the strategy, the architecture. That demands higher level human thinking.
Okay, so given all the promise and the pitfalls, how should people actually approach this? What are the best practices for using vibe coding effectively?
I think the key is approaching it with informed experimentation. Don't just jump in blindly. Explore the tools, see what they can do, but definitely don't throw away your debugger.
Good advice. It's about augmenting, not replacing, right?
Exactly. Use AI to speed things up, handle the mundane stuff, but don't let it replace your own expertise and judgment. Keep your human intuition for the really critical parts, the architecture, the complex logic.
And basic good practices still apply.
Absolutely. Responsible teams still need unit tests, continuous integration pipelines, all that good stuff. Even if AI wrote a lot of the initial code, you still need that safety net.
What about advice for different types of users? Non-technical folks versus experienced devs?
For non-technical users trying this, the key is probably being really clear and detailed in describing the whole application up front. For learners, maybe use the AI-generated code as a starting point to study and tweak.
Learn by modifying.
Right. And for experienced developers, it's about strategically offloading those routine tasks to free up mental energy for the harder problems.
Are there specific tips for writing the prompts, for interacting with the AI?
Yeah, some best practices seem to be emerging. Be really specific in your prompts. Break big tasks down into smaller steps. Use version control constantly, like taking snapshots.
It's points.
Definitely. And don't be afraid to ask the AI questions. Why did you do it this way? Explain this piece of code. But overarching all of that is the need to review, test, and really understand what the AI gives you.
So looking ahead then, what's the long view? Is vibe coding just a phase, or is it really a fundamental shift?
The general feeling seems to be that this is fundamental. It's not just a fleeting trend. The tools are still young, yes, but the momentum is, well, it's undeniable.
AI is changing the landscape permanently.
It seems so. Developers will likely spend less time worrying about specific syntax rules and more time on system design, on problem solving at a higher level.
What kind of innovations might we see next?
So I expect we'll see even smarter AI agents, maybe whole new Vibe IDEs that integrate this conversational approach even more deeply. Developers, teams, whole organizations, they'll need to adapt. We'll need standards for prompt quality, for AI code review, for security.
So adapting is key.
It really feels like those who learn to vibe code, intelligently combining AI power with solid human judgment, are the ones who are going to thrive.
And maybe it enables more niche ideas.
That's a really exciting possibility. Small teams pursuing ambitious projects that just weren't practical before. It's definitely a bold new world out there. Huge potential for creativity, but only if we approach it smartly with that critical oversight. It has to be a partnership.
A partnership between human creativity and AI assistance. So vibe coding really does challenge how we even define a software creator. Huge potential for productivity, for democratization. But like we've said, the risks need careful navigation, critical thinking. It definitely makes you think, doesn't it? How this shift might impact your own work or what you might build in the future.
Indeed. It's a massive conversation, and it feels like it's really just getting started. The implications are huge.
Well, thank you for walking us through all that. Hopefully this deep dive into vibe coding has given you, our listener, some real food for thought about this fast-moving space.